All right, all right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Election Night Show. My name is Andy Moore. I'm the founder and CEO of Let's Fix This.
And I'm Scott Melson. I'm Andy's partner in crime.
For those of you who are new here tonight or don't know what you're doing yet, this is an election watch party. It's a little bit like it's like the Life Church of watch parties.
Very much.
But there's no like buff guys in tight polo shirts and less Jesus.
Less Jesus and less. We're more like middle-aged youth pastor vibe. Less life.
We will be asking you for money though, because this is also our big fundraiser for the year. So get your wallets if the Spirit moves you, whatever spirit. And I think
The spirit moving me will be whiskey, and so
Right,
I encourage
right,
that
yeah.
for you guys as well. Bar is available in the back.
Right, there's a bar, and please don't forget to tip your bartenders. But please drink responsibly. Since this is an election watch party, I want to get a baseline. How many of you in the audience voted today? All right, if you haven't, I don't know why you're here. You've got about 27 minutes, and you should leave immediately. I don't usually say that in front of an audience.
Right. Almost never. I also voted today. I didn't raise my hand just now, but I voted. It was the last thing I did before I came here, in fact. It was an interesting experience. The polling place was packed, which was great. It felt like a presidential year. If you've ever gone to the Let's Fix This website, if you've listened to our podcast, you know, we really encourage you to make a plan to vote, right? Like, know when you're going to vote, research the issues, know everything you can about your candidates. That's what I did this year. Sometimes I try to do that by voting absentee, but this year I went to my polling place, but I was met with a shock.
What's that, Scott?
Well, I went and I got in the booth and I went to vote, and Joe Biden was nowhere on my ballot. I was stunned.
I was told he would be on that ballot in several races.
I was under the impression that he was running simultaneously for governor, state superintendent, and maybe even DA, right?
It's possible.
Possibly. He was going to do all of that while still being president of the United States, but he was not on the ballot this year.
It's true. Well, and I've spent a lot of time this year poking around the voter file, looking at some of your voting habits and histories. And I do have a big question about someone who doesn't have a great voting history, especially for governor, and that is Governor Kevin Stitt. I wonder if he voted today.
You'd hope so. You'd hope that he voted, but I didn't. I didn't hear. Did you hear? Did you hear anything about whether the governor voted today?
I mean, I heard that he did. I just don't know if that was at which precinct. Was that in Edmond, or was that down here where he's actually registered?
Did he? Which residence? His official residence, or where he actually
Can
lives?
you helicopter in to Metro Tech to cast your vote? Is that an option?
I don't think that. I don't think the Metro Tech has a helipad. No.
Well,
but
I think lots of people expected in the last few weeks with all the ads that we would see some ads featuring Joy Hoffmeister's mugshots, right, from about a decade ago. But it never did. And we didn't see a mugshot from Governor Stitt either. That, of course, is because no one was ever prosecuted for the subprime mortgage crisis.
it's true. It's true. So nobody went to jail for that. They just got very, very rich. Speaking of voting and Joy Hoffmeister, I assume she voted today, right? I mean, she seems like someone who's pretty politically active. She, I think, votes in every election. I just don't know. Do you think she voted straight Republican just out of habit, or
I don't
know? Or did she remember to vote for herself in the Democratic
It
ticket?
could have been one of those, yeah. Who knows?
Uh-oh. We'll see. The election, though, appears to be very, very close. Polling is all over the place. We've seen in the last 4 weeks, we've seen polls that show Hoffmeister up 9. We've seen polls that show Stitt up. We've seen a much closer election than that. You know, there's one poll. So Governor Stitt and Ted Cruz actually used the same pollster. And that pollster released a poll that showed the governor up by 15 points. 15 points. Which I think is 1 point for each person that came to their Get Out the Vote rally.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true. Those pictures were a little embarrassing.
It was not that many.
We expect there to be more people here tonight than there were at the Ted Cruz rally.
I think there already are.
I don't know what that says about us or Ted Cruz. But speaking of corruption, Swalley's Barbecue is not catering here tonight. To be clear, we do have some delicious food from Pony Boy next door and from Hideaway, so please help yourself and give them a hand, yeah.
They're more excited about the food than us.
That's okay. I am too.
I'm saying,
And we all know that inflation is high. Everything's expensive right now. But I think $14 million for a barbecue sandwich was a bit much for the state.
Particularly in the middle of Robbers Cave State Park. That's
true.
Hiss, hiss, hiss. Ryan Walters. Anybody familiar with Ryan Walters? Right? So I want to take that as a yes. Are you familiar with his car videos? Right? That's Mr. Walters. He made a name for himself locally and nationally with these campaign videos that he would do in his car. It's like just him and a whiteboard in his car. Eventually you're kind of wondering, like, does he have a house? Like, why is he always in his car? And we know the governor's mansion is empty, so, like, I wonder if Stitt could let Ryan Walters live in the mansion.
That's not a bad idea. There's a library in the governor's mansion. I bet they've got a dictionary that would be useful for some of those car videos.
Or a thesaurus.
Right?
Oh dear. This was one of the most expensive gubernatorial campaigns in history. Do we know how many tens or hundreds of millions of dollars? No. Governor Stitt has been loving to talk about the dark money. $20 million in dark money being spent against him. $50 million of dark money being spent against him. And all this is outside dark money. Outside dark money. Spooky, right? Someone needs to tell the governor that call was coming from inside the house.
That's true.
There it is.
That's
right?
true. Halloween's past, but that's still a spooky joke. My daughter, Margot, some of you know her from Zoom as coworker Margot. She's grown up in the pandemic. Came home from daycare yesterday with some paint like on her neck and her shirt. And my wife, who's back here in the merch booth tonight, was asking her, Margot, did you guys do some art today? And I figured, based on the amount of purple and teal, they were more making Kendra Horn signs.
Yes. One can only hope. Okay. Kendra has, Kendra Horn, familiar with Kendra Horn? Right? Yeah. Running to replace retiring Senator Jim Inhofe in the Senate, running a really competitive race against Congressman Markwayne Mullin. Congressman Mullin, famous. I like this tape. Yeah, I like it. I like the energy.
It's just the first drink too. Just wait until like 7 o'clock. Yeah.
Right? That's going to be when results are coming in. So Congressman Mullin, famous for any number of reasons, but I think one of his first claims to fame was that he pledged when he ran initially that he was only going to serve two terms in Congress. That was 3 terms ago. He's still there, now running for Senate. And it's interesting because even though they're the same party, Congressman Mullin did not get an endorsement from his predecessor. Senator Jim Inhofe declined to endorse Congressman Mullin. I think Jim Inhofe is known for bringing lots, whatever you think of his politics or his policy, Senator Inhofe brought lots and lots and lots of money in defense spending to the state of Oklahoma. And it seems like he was kind of ticked off because Congressman Mullin tried to take all that to Afghanistan in a paper bag. Right? I know, right? It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's terrible. All jokes aside, I think we all know that this election has tremendous consequences for our state and for the country at large. We'll talk some about the races. We'll have election results on the screen later tonight. Polls close now in about 20 minutes. So again, you still have time to cast one more ballot. Don't vote twice, just to be clear.
It's
not
really
advocating fraud.
Yeah, no voter fraud. It really is an interesting election, though. I don't think I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen. I certainly don't. You and I, we spend a lot of time on the 538 website. We spend a lot of time looking at their models, Political Report.
I know there's some other 538 fans out here.
Yes, anyone? No?
There's 2, 3. Good for you.
Okay, all right.
Fellow nerds, thank you.
The rest of them are coastal elites. But the 538 model locked at midnight. They have Democrats as underdogs in the Senate by a couple of percentage points, pretty significant underdogs in the House, with a smattering of gubernatorial races throughout the country, including ours. 538 has us as a likely Republican win for governor and an almost certain Republican win for our congressional races and Senate races. We'll see, though, because it is interesting that their polling average, the 538 polling average actually has Governor stood up by I want to say 3.5 points the last time I looked.
4.9 points.
4.9?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll see. I think it's going to be a pretty tight race.
I was trying to put it on the screen, but my clicker's not working. If the sound booth can help with that. So 538's polling average for the governor's race ended with him being up by about 5 points. It's very close. So I think tonight we'll find out. Some pollsters will be wrong. Some will be very, very wrong. Look, there it is. Scott, what are you going to be watching tonight?
Yeah, so for me, there's two big data points. So in 2018, the last time the governor was on the ballot, running against Drew Edmondson, the governor won every county outside of Oklahoma County and Tulsa County by a margin of 59 to 37. So he won every county in the state other than Oklahoma and Tulsa by a margin of 22 points. On the flip side, those two counties, Drew Edmondson, former Attorney General Drew Edmondson, won Tulsa County and Oklahoma County by 5 points, 41 to 46. I want to see what's happening in those margins as we go throughout the night. And specifically, if Governor Stitt is carrying rural counties by single digits, I think that portends a pretty long night for him. And then on the flip side, if Hoffmeister is carrying Tulsa County and Oklahoma County by double digits, certainly anything above 12 to 15, I think she could be in for a really good time. And I think turnout is really the third thing. So what are the margins in rural counties? What are the margins here in the metro and in Tulsa? And then what happens with turnout?
Yeah, no, I think that's, Scott, you're always a little more of a math whiz than I am. So I'll defer to you for some of those statistical analyses. I'm going to be watching, of course, as most of you, just the raw numbers, right? Is who wins the governor's race, who wins the state superintendent's race, who wins the Oklahoma County DA's race, which should also be very competitive. And then we're not going to have on the screen necessarily, but I'll be looking to our neighbors in Tulsa. Former school board member Suzanne Schreiber is running for the state house for Carol Bush's seat. Carol Bush was a Republican. Suzanne's running as a Democrat. It's one of those few purple seats in our state.
Yep.
And I think it can be a bit of a bellwether for what's happening in Tulsa, similar to some of the races here in Oklahoma County. And then nationally, I think some of you know, I also run a national organization that focuses on democracy and electoral reform. And there are some hugely important elections related around the country, most notably in Nevada, who will be voting on a Final Five system. So open primaries plus choice voting, similar to what Alaska uses now. So we'll be looking to see how that turns out in Alaska and then what happens in Nevada. Because I suspect over the next 2 to 4 years, open primaries, ranked choice voting, those things are issues that we're going to be talking about here in Oklahoma as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I will also have an eye on Nevada, talking about national races. We'll see what happens. I think it's entirely possible control of the Senate could come down to Nevada. That, of course, depends on what happens in Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. Ohio, I think, is a bit more of a stretch, but I think you could see Dems hold the line in Georgia. You could see Dems Masters Kelly race in Arizona, and if Fetterman Oz race in Pennsylvania, as well as the Masters Kelly race in Arizona. And if that all happens, if that's how the chips fall, then control of the U.S. Senate could come down to the union vote in Nevada. So
it'll be very, very close. We'll just wait and see. All right, well, while we wait for the polls to close and for those election results to come in, we have a great show for you tonight here. Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt will be with us soon. Former state senator and returning election night show guest AJ Griffin will be here. And local entrepreneur, activist, and inspirational figure Erica Lucas is already here. Real quick, I do want to thank our sponsors that made tonight possible: Conjo, Crow and Dunlevy, and Focus Workplace Furniture and Design. Please give our sponsors a round of applause as well. All right, well, Scott and I are going to take a quick break. You should too. And while you do, listen to Cody Pruitt and the Secret Mansions.
They're a secret.